This is a regular scheduled meeting of the Finance Committee of Ascension Parish Council on Monday, June the 4th. Councilman Lohr, if you will please lead us in the invocation and the pledge.
Dear Lord, we ask you again to keep Councilman Joseph's son, Oliver, in your graces, Lord, and ask for some special strength to come down on that family, and of course for healing, Lord, for him as he works through a hard recovery. We just ask that be your will, and we just ask everyone to keep their family in your thoughts and prayers. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All council persons are present with the exception of Councilman Joseph and Councilman Brian Melanson, who is ill. There are no chair additions, and in the public comment period, if anyone would like to make a comment on any item on the agenda, please feel free to come up now and sign in with the secretary. At the time that it is appropriate for you to speak, you'll have 3 minutes. Moving on, monthly contract report, Kimberly Bailey Lomas.
The monthly contract report for May 2012 is included in your packet. Those are contracts that we entered last month. There's a list of the contracts, and also any contracts over $50,000 includes what board it went before and when it was approved. Basically, it gives you when council approval was received. For the contracts that we entered last month, if you have any questions, we can submit that response with the backup documentation via email.
Gentlemen, are there any questions? Councilman Satterley.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Item number 6, Montgomery Watson, Harza America. Review conceptual layout within the 2012 draft wastewater facility plan. Beginning, I guess that's tomorrow, May 7th, through May 6th of 2013, with 2 one-year options to renew. Maybe someone could tell me a little bit about that. As a member of the Utilities Committee, we haven't met yet in 2012. What is the wastewater facility plan, and what are we spending $50,000 to review here?
Okay, well, I can get a copy of that for you and have Kenny Matassa give an explanation of exactly what it's going to detail.
Please do that.
Okay.
Councilman Satterley, Councilman Johnson will be happy to answer your question.
Thank you, Benny.
What was done with that was the administration talking to has laid out a plan for Montgomery Watts to analyze information and give us some direction to go to with wastewater in the parish. And that's what we're working on with them, is to consolidate a lot of information and come up with a consolidation of that information to present to us at future meetings. That's about it.
Thank you. Maybe just a quick follow-up. So is that the Army Corps plan, or just all different?
That's all of it. The Corps plan will be in there. The facilities plan that was recently presented to us through the Corps is going to be in that.
Any other questions, gentlemen? Then we'll move along. Agenda item number 6, presentation of the Ascension Parish Novus agenda pricing information and references. Brandon O'Day.
Good evening, council members. A few months back, Councilman Lohr asked the administration to begin researching an electronic agenda building system that could A, save the parish some money and the amount of paper and time that it takes to make an agenda, and then B, make things easier on us and you guys as far as creating this agenda, getting it approved, getting it presented to you. So what we did is we started researching the different software companies out there that make products like this. And this one particular company we got good feedback on, all the technical specs, we like them. We think it would be a good fit. Along with this system, we also started looking at the electronic devices to go along with it to allow you to view the agendas electronically, to give you the option to not use paper. And in the information that I provided in the packet to you, you'll see a cost breakdown and the recommendation of the hardware and the software that we're going to talk to you about tonight. So with that, I'm going to introduce Byron. Byron works for and is a representative of Novus Agenda, and he's going to show you a little presentation here on it.
Thank you.
Byron, thank you for being with us. We appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Council, for your time. Thank you very much. For the record, again, my name is Byron Gillen with Novus Solutions. We're based out of Tampa, Florida. So again, thank you for your time. There should be a presentation that's coming up on your screen here. So what I'm planning on doing tonight is spend just a few minutes to paint a picture of what I've learned, where the parish is at today internally, and where I'd like to partner with you folks to go and take the next step as far as getting automated. So that's what we're going to spend a few minutes to do today, based on your time. And if you'd like to see actually how you folks would use it at the end, I'll be happy to show it to you live as well. Okay? So without further ado, again, this solution has been around for over a decade, 12 years to be exact. We have over 200 deployments of this solution to help automate the legislative process when we talk about agenda and meeting automation. Each of these little blue dots on the screen represent friends of yours because each and every one of them are in the public sector. That's all we've done in the last 12 years is work with parishes, counties, cities, and school districts in the country. So again, what I'm going to do today is simply educate Parish what I've learned, where we see you going, and then answer any questions you have about the application. Now, to paint the picture of where the parish is at today, most parishes and counties and cities and municipalities in the country are in the same boat, a lot of paper internally, a lot of photocopies, paper, emails, faxes, phone calls being thrown around so we can organize the documentation that's on your packets in front of you today. So what we're looking to do is provide a more efficient process internally for not only this council, but all of your committees here at the parish, and also provide that layer of transparency for each and every one of you and the parish administration to quickly find information you're looking for and do real analytics on the data that's being discussed in these meetings. So what you can see here on the next slide is how we're going to help you achieve that. Our system will recognize each of your staff members as they're logged into our tool. And instead of sending an email, creating a Word document, creating paper, and floating it from office to office, they'll go into our system and submit it. Our system will recognize who they are, the type of item they're creating, and the committee or meeting they're sending it to. That will dictate a unique workflow that's assigned to that type of item, so all your revisions and edits on all of your documentation will be tracked in our application, including signatures. So no more running in someone's office, taking a pen of a piece of paper, photocopying that, and somehow getting it on the packet. All that will be done automated and tracked through our system. Then your different committee secretaries, as well as the individuals that build your agenda for your packets, will simply be able to organize it in one central spot rather than juggling all these different balls up in the air. Then the distribution can be automated to you folks and to the public on your website, like you're doing today, and also the automation of your minutes, and have it all tied together with the video that we're doing here today. So that's the 10,000-foot view as far as what our solution does. So again, to recap, staff first will organize the items and be able to track key information that you folks here on the board will want to track. Your contract report you just ran through, that can all be tracked in our system, so it could be tracked in a database so you can look up, show me every contract that's coming up in July that we're going to need to discuss. How much, what of those are $50,000 or more? All that data will now be in a database versus documents that need to be manually retrieved. So the staff will submit the information, then the approvals will now be done electronically. An email will be sent to the next individual. They'll have the ability to sign off on that documentation right through their email and be able to confirm they are who they say they are with their username and password and electronically sign off on the documentation internally. Once that documentation is then signed off on, we can prepare the agenda by going to one central spot rather than juggling emails, phone calls, faxes, voicemails, and people walking into our office. Everything's going to be in one central spot for those that organize it, the secretaries of the committees, as well as the team that builds your packets. Once they organize the information, then with a click of a button, it can be distributed to each and every one of you, as well as to your website and internal systems you already have in place. So the distribution, for one, will go to your website, and just like you see here today, the public can access the information electronically. But the difference is when you guys go shopping for your kids, nieces, nephews, grandkids, you go to Walmart and look at the technology shelves, you see all of these, laptops, computers, and all sorts of different things being accessed. Each and every one of these tools are going to your parish website right now trying to gather information. The challenge is how we have the site set up today, it doesn't know what device is accessing it, so it's what you see is what you get. So what our system will do for your public is have the ability to, I think I clicked the wrong button, recognize the device the person's using and optimize the appearance of that information for that device. Very similar when you go to your news website to CNN. If you access CNN on your computer, you'll see it laid out completely different than if you go to CNN on here. Our system will do that for your public to help them with their transparency for providing the information you already provide to the public. Now, for you folks, the board members, again, I'll have the ability to show you live if you're interested, but the next two slides will show you what you will use as a tool to be better prepared and organized in the actual meeting. And again, I apologize for keep hitting the wrong button. Okay. The tool that we'll use, and I'll just get to it, will give you folks the ability to log in from any device anywhere on the planet. Now, this device can be your smartphone, a laptop, computer, or an iPad that's provided for you personally or by the county. When you get to that particular solution, or when you actually log in, you'll be able to see your agenda packet. And it's different. You might be thinking, why don't I just get an email to me? What's the difference between getting an email versus looking in your system? Here's the difference. Now, when the information is distributed to you, you can then access it on any device, but then find key information that's important for you to track. So if you're looking up a specific contract or special information, you can now go right to that information rather than having to manually go through a bunch of old minutes books or have someone do the research for you. You will have the ability to find that information yourselves now prior to the meeting, during the meeting, or after the meeting. So when you log in, you'll see the actual agendas that are available to you. You simply click on the date, and the agenda will be presented in the exact same format that you get emailed or printed out for you today. So the learning curve should be pretty straightforward. It's the exact same format you're looking at today. The difference is it's now on an electronic screen, obviously. You can see everything electronically, and you can cross-reference previous agendas and minutes and materials. Okay, so all of that is now at your fingertips. Not only that, you have your own private note-taking tool embedded in the solution. These notes are your own personal notes, and only you can see it. You're the only person on the planet that can see your personal notes. Very similar to writing your notes on a piece of paper, whatever you might write your notes on. Again, the difference is, when you write your note on a piece of paper, like myself, you'll lose the piece of paper in the trunk of your car. If you put the note on this, 6 months from now when you discuss this contract or issue, those notes and research you put on there will be with that particular item. So that's what this solution will do for you, the board, as far as helping you be better prepared and organized. Then finally, your minutes taking. We have the ability to create your minutes and automate the minutes just like the agenda and create it in a format that can track your motions, discussions, and votes. And in the future, if you all want to do your voting electronically, you'll have the ability to do electronic voting right through the system as well, right through the same interface that you do your research on right now. Minutes will then be distributed just like your agenda, so it's searchable on any device through the different tools we just talked about. Now, another benefit that this system gives to you, the fact that it's stored now in a database versus documents, gives you administration analytic power. So when you do your reporting, you can now do analytics based on what we've discussed in the parish, so you can make data-driven decisions moving forward. So that's the breadth of the solution. You already are recording the video services, so the recording you already have now and you're taking place right now will be embedded in your agenda and in your minutes. So when you electronically see it, you can watch the actual video or movie of your meetings as you're reading agendas and minutes. So that's what our solution does for the board in a quick little overview. So what we're offering for the parish here to a few parishes here in Louisiana is the opportunity to pilot the solution. So that's what's presented to you here today, is to try it. And try it for 2 or 3 meetings. We'll run out through all your staff training and all your setup. And then after the successful pilot, as long as it's successful, then we'll move on with the purchase. But that's the actual presentation, or that's what the offer is on the table here for Ascension Parish. We've been doing it for over 12 years. We're confident with all of our success here in Louisiana and across the country. We know it's going to work for you. So we're willing to actually do that for you folks and set up. Anyone have any questions? Would anyone like to see the solution, or have you heard enough?
Gentlemen, any questions?
Thank you, folks.
Councilman Clua.
Yeah, real quick, what's the nearest place that you got from here? You may know. that's actually using this?
We have Terrebonne Parish is currently using it, and the state is actually using as well, the Board of Ethics.
Okay.
Those are two in the state.
Councilman Lord.
I actually wanted to ask Cinnamon if she, I know we had a chance to kind of look at it some together, and I think you looked at it some more today. Since you kind of live in this world every day, I kind of wanted to get your impressions.
Brandon and I looked at several of these programs, and none of them had everything that we needed like this one does. They had a lot of stuff that we could use, but a lot of stuff also that we wouldn't use and we'd pay money for. This one seemed to meet everything that we need. And my thing is not only going paperless, but the efficiency and the cutting down on the human error. There's retention, there's research, archiving. It's a lot more to me than it probably would be to y'all, but I mean, it would help my office be so much more efficient than it is right now.
Thank you. Just a couple more comments. Just if you look at the ROI on this tool, they've gone through and analyzed the committees. I mentioned this a few meetings ago when we first got a hold of it, but $1 million over the next 5 years if we go completely paperless. This is obviously what the industry is doing. I know my company just went, their board just went all electronic on iPads. The ability, besides the efficiencies and the process transparency that was stated earlier, just the searching ability, the ability to go back over the, a couple of years from now and search by a keyword on something and pull up any agenda item. I know it's, tough keeping packets with hundreds of pages for every meeting that we have and trying to go and hunt and peck through that. And as a side benefit to this, I got a text from my wife a couple hours ago that my dogs had eaten the agenda packet that was waiting for me on my doorstep, and I needed another one. So with something like this, things like that wouldn't happen either. But in all seriousness, I think this is a great tool. I personally had a chance to look at it myself, and I think any of the committee chairs would appreciate the agenda creation part of it, and all of us could really benefit from moving forward with this.
I agree with Chris a lot. Looking at it, I think it'll save us like $203,000 a year just by going electronic from what we cost. Big savings for us. It's going to be a little learning curve, but I think we can all do it. So, feel we got the expertise to put it in the right hands.
Any other questions?
Yep.
Councilman Sadler.
Thank you. The comment about making private comments in preparation for a meeting that only we could see.
Correct.
How would that work with open meetings laws that the public can right now look at our emails on ap.gov and so forth? How would that work here?
It's a great question. It comes up with each and every deployment we do, and what I can share with you is our expertise. But we certainly are not legal counsel, so I don't want to represent us. Obviously, legal counsel. But how it typically works when we talk to our clients is legal counsel looks at it exactly. If you walked in the room here with a piece of paper with your notes on there, if those notes are foilable, then these notes are as well. If you could take that piece of paper and do with you as you please, as some can, and shred them or whatever, then those notes in our system can also be deleted. So typically that's how the legal counsel looks at it.
And one more question. I don't know even who this is for. Maybe, Chris, you might want to address this. You say your company has gone this way. How do you ever really get rid of hard? I'm all for the green thing, first of all, and get rid of the paper.
Absolutely.
It's overwhelming, to say the least. My wife's already about to throw me out of my man cave saying you've got too many things filed too many places. And it's hard, as Councilman Lohr and others have said, to have to, the search engine thing would be very useful to me. But wouldn't we still have to come here with hard paper in order to conduct the meeting, or are we talking about having parish-supplied devices where this information would be in front of us as an alternative to the hard paper and not killing a tree, that I could actually see everything? Like right now, we've got, what, I don't know, paper about this thick just for this meeting alone, which is a committee meeting, not even the full council. How?
Councilman Lohr will be happy to answer you.
Actually, Brandon, I think part of what we asked you to look at, if you didn't, was to provide a recommendation, and based on what you and the vendor had found about what most other counties and parishes are doing on that front, be it laptop, be it iPad, what have you. What did you find?
We researched all types of hardware. The popular things out there right now are the tablet PCs. The advantage that the tablet PC gives you in this case is a lot of what you guys deal with is not just standard 8.5 by 11 paper. You have maps, you have big plats.
Absolutely.
The ability to do the pinch and zoom and move around on a screen of a tablet makes a lot more sense than having a laptop in front of you. The tablets are also about half the price of a laptop, so there's cost savings there as well. But I think that would be up to you guys to possibly maybe amend a current ordinance or something to allow you guys to have the computer devices and to have the data service that goes along with it.
And Brandon, also there's, for those that don't live in the IT world and stuff, but if you haven't seen that, the tablets now also have like docks that you can do keyboards and stuff too, so it's not like you wouldn't be able to still type using an iPad, and I think that's something we were talking about too.
And one final question. I assume we would have fail-safe mechanisms if we voted to adopt the system, you know, if it malfunctioned. Paper never malfunctions in front of you, even though it's cumbersome and a problem.
Yes, yes, sir. You have the choice to either host it with us or host on your own servers, as Brandon would prefer hosting on your own servers. So it would be all your own data. It would be obviously backed up and duplicated. So it would be locally hosted.
Thank you very much. Thank you too, Chris.
Any further questions, gentlemen? Gwen, what is the proper procedure for us? This will obviously require a budget amendment if we approve it.
Yes, that's correct, and we also have a professional services ordinance, and maybe O'Neill could address that.
Into the microphone.
You have to move it to the next, just like any other ordinance, and deal with it. I mean, we may have to amend, I'd have to look at it and see since we're going to provide you all iPads also, where we would go with that.
Okay. So we'll need to organize around all of the necessary things to make this happen. Should we move it from here tonight? My understanding is that this was purely informational tonight, and so there is not any need for a vote on this. It's just,
Okay.
Councilman Shea Snyder.
Well, I was fine with it if we were going to move forward, but there's no voting tonight. And what is the process? What are you looking for? Just in?
You can put it back on the agenda for next month.
Yeah.
I think that's when you need to act on it.
Well, he'll get us the ordinance ready for it.
I'd have to look at the ordinances, whether we can do it,
Whether you can amend it or whatever.
whether we need to, or whether we can,
I would like, and this doesn't have to be a motion, I mean, a little resolution or request, is that that we look for administration to give us all the tools necessary by the next meeting to move forward and give us guidelines as to what it's going to take to actually implement it, and that's something we can vote on and move forward. So that way everyone will know, through legal, through administrative process, and through the IT process.
And also keep in mind that they are offering
A trial run.
a trial with it. So what they would do is actually create user IDs for all you guys, and we would try it on their system for, a meeting or two?
2 or 3 meetings.
Yep. And then maybe after, if you decide you want to go with it, then maybe we move on it.
Excellent.
Then
Chris, did you have anything further?
No, just other than we'll continue to pursue the odds and ends we need to push forward on trying to get this done.
Okay, Brian, thank you so much, and we really appreciate the opportunity to be a pilot program. Thank you.
We look forward to partnering with you, so thank you very much.
Well, you're going to have a big job ahead of you with me, because I am, as anybody will tell you, not very computer literate. So. I love my paper. But I will get on board.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Moving along to item number 7. That is an amendment to the professional services contract, Innovative Energy Management, Hazmat Commodity Flow Study, Richard Weber. Who's going to be speaking on behalf of Mr. Weber? Amy Johnson.
Amy Cluett Johnson. Good evening. I think that before you have the amended scope. We originally were awarded in 2010 the Hazardous Materials Emergency Performance Grant. It was an award of $64,400, and a payment has been received by the parish. Initially, we did go and put an RFP out. IAM did do a hazmat commodity flow study for us, and it was for $49,811.78. The balance of the grant was $14,588.22. The next natural amendment to the scope was for us, once they had collected this data and prepared that, was to take our emergency operations plan for the parish, take our ESF, which is our emergency support function 10, which is hazmat, incorporate all of that data, a threat-specific annex by the 4 modes, which the hazmat commodity flow study looked at, which was transportation modes of rail, road, maritime, and pipeline, incorporate that into our emergency operations plan for the parish, and also do an economic impact white paper for us as far as if any part or any dependencies were to fail, what would be the impact to Ascension Parish and is right now. As I understand it, once we went for the expanded scope, it pushed us over the 50,000, and that's why we're here for the amendment.
I make that motion with the amendment.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Kluwat and a second by, sorry, Councilman Lambert made the motion. Councilman Kluwat seconded. Any questions? Any objections? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Item number 8, the Parish Transportation Initiative Program, Ben Laurie.
Yeah, actually, Ken Dawson is going to present, open up the presentation for Tommy Martinez, who's not here tonight, and then we've got a couple other guys that are going to give you some more information as we develop this program.
Very good. Welcome, Mr. Dawson.
Welcome. Thank you, Madam Chair, and the rest of the Finance Committee. Kind of excited about being here tonight because, as you've heard President Martinez talk about before, the issues of transportation in Ascension Parish, and kind of being new on the staff here and going out to lunch a couple of times, you see some of the bottlenecks. We're happy here to talk about a couple of things. And first of all, he wanted to make sure that this council had many opportunities, as many as possible, to look over the proposals that will be presented to you regarding the transportation initiative here. The council will help shape the opportunities and shape this proposal for consideration of the voters. The information will be provided. There are presentations tonight that I think that have been presented at other times. Other things that happened before, including the public meetings, which some of you were there and saw the participation of the public, and the comments that some of the other presentations were presented to other in other meetings and in other audiences. The team has done a great job of leveraging all of the aspects of the funding coupled with the proposed tax. And again, I say leveraging all of the aspects of funding available to Ascension Parish, and then looking at how that can be coupled with the proposed transportation tax to take care of the transportation issues now and also well into the future. So my job here now is to kind of introduce the team, as you see sitting here. First, we have from CSRS, who assisted in the program development. We have Mr. Michael Sanjay, who you've seen before you several times making presentations, as well as Mr. Travis Woodard. Oh, he's there in the back. From Crew and Associates, who are the financial advisors, you have with us Jim Ryan, who you've seen before, I'm sure, and also Marcus Lambert. We also have with us bond attorney Malcolm Dugas, who's here, and who's not here tonight unless somebody maybe sneaked in the audience here. Louisiana Department of Transportation Development has worked closely with Ascension Parish. I was in a meeting, and basically they complimented Ascension Parish in the efforts of planning, the efforts of doing things and working with them, I thought was pretty significant. Also, Ben Laurie has worked closely with Baton Rouge MPO, and a lot of items associated with the transportation issues in Ascension have been addressed with that organization as well. So with that, again, we are happy to provide the information and questions you may have. This group will be willing to answer, and of course the administration will be willing to do so as well. So with that, Mr. Sanjay will start the presentation.
Thank you very much, Ken. Madam Chairman, members of the council, just to be as brief as possible, the presentation really will be from Jim and Malcolm and our firm as well. We've combined this all into one with some finance and bonding information. I know that a lot of you saw our presentation last Tuesday. However, a few of you did not. So we're going to repeat just a few of the initial slides, and then we're really going to change course from last Tuesday and get much more in concept about the funding and bonding, as well as I know all of you are most interested in the particular projects and estimates. So if we can roll. Always helps to turn it on. Okay, as I mentioned, we're going to do a project overview, talk about funding, the project estimates, and then timeline. As I mentioned last week, this is a new 1/2 cent sales tax parish-wide for the unincorporated areas of the parish. It will also result in a gradual transfer of state roads to Ascension Parish. As mentioned, these projects have been identified based upon our current needs as well as our future projections. This will require voter approval. Our entire timeline is set to do everything we need to do by the November 6th election. This tax is estimated to generate $8 million in annual proceeds. It will provide bonding capacity of approximately $80 million. And there also will be about $3 million. That's an average over the term of the 25 years, but it will average about $3 million will be available after debt service of that $80 million in bonds. Several of you had questions about that, but that is basically the reserve, and Jim can answer more on that in our question and answer period. The funding analysis, I thought it would be best to do this in terms of a graph. You know, if the tax passes and we're on a cash basis, that would be represented by the yellow line that you see. However, the forecast forward is for inflation to jump back into the picture. Therefore, if you proceed on a cash basis, inflation is going to limit your true value in today's dollars. If you look at bonding, what we're talking about right now is basically selling two different bonds, each at $40 million, so that we're not encumbering the entire $80 million at one time. So somewhere within the first 2 years, we would sell a bond in the ballpark of $40 million. We would make sure that those monies are expended on projects and moving forward. When the need arose for the second bond, we would sell that. So the graph kind of shows you the accelerated availability of funds that we would have from the ability to sell the bonds. And this graph kind of gives you a pictorial of what you gain, so much more dollars available quicker in the program. Basically, as soon as you have engineering and right-of-way underway, you're ready to fund construction and get the projects underway. Once again, $8 million in tax collections. We feel that our revenue estimates are very conservative. We're showing the two numbers from the half cent in 2010 and 2011, and we're forecasting a 1% annual increase. If inflation does tick up, then obviously that 1% would prove to be very conservative. This is a pictorial that I wanted to include that hopefully will help you understand, and we do have hard copies as well if it's easier for you to see. But we have a lot of different funding sources that will come into this program. To kind of start out from year zero, the tax passes, those first couple of years, we'll have $8 million coming into the program. That may suffice for us to get necessary engineering done without even selling a bond. It may not. We'll see. But just so everyone understands, we'll start out with $8 million per year in cash. When the need arises to sell the bond, when our needs are greater than our cash availability, we'll sell the first bond.
At that point, we have $40 million of cash to spend. We also, though, still have about $4 million in cash funding that's going to be available on top of the bond money. We'll proceed along until about year 5, and then we would anticipate selling a second bond. The purple lines represent the DOTD credits from the road transfer program, which are really federal road monies. The reasons those don't start till year 5 is that what we're going to do at year 0 is begin immediately identifying projects to receive federal funding. We'll hire the engineers to do the work. We'll begin the right-of-way acquisition to acquire the right-of-way, and then when we get to that construction stage and we really need the dollars, that's when we would anticipate the federal dollars coming in. So it's going to take some seed money, some local money, to get the ball started on these projects, to get them eligible, and then for the federal monies to come in. So as you can see, with the combination of the cash funding and the bonds and the federal monies, at year 5, it would be a cumulative of everything you see. $80 million in bonds. You'd have probably close to $20 million in cash funding, $15 million in federal funding. So in year 5, we could really see a lot of monies coming into this program, and then the federal monies would continue out over time as the chart depicts. But what we're just trying to show you here is the different sources of money in the timeline at which they would come through. Project estimates. As all of you know, we've been working on these projects through the public workshops and through our communication to the Transportation Committee last week. We've rearranged the diagram here a little bit really to help you identify the projects with the funding, and I think this is a little bit clearer. I certainly hope that it is. In red is the airline. The red line obviously represents the airline highway improvements. The red dots along there represent intersection improvements along airline highway. All the other red dots represent regional or intersection improvements to what we're calling the regional corridor. This is the corridor DOTD wants to keep in their system. It would be eligible for federal funds, and therefore all of the intersection improvements, or the dots that you see in red, are going to be somewhere in the ballpark of 20% local, 80% federal. Could be, or it could be a higher participation of local, but there will be federal funding eligible for all of those projects. Then you see the projects in yellow. That is 100% local money on what will remain local routes. Those basically consist of intersection improvements throughout the parish. The last category is purple, which are DOTD improvements that DOTD has committed. If you notice the vertical line of purple dots in the center is Highway 44. DOTD is committed to doing those improvements with DOTD funds. What that did was enable us to remove those from the basically change those colors from yellow to purple, and now we have a whole lot more of yellow intersections that we're able to do. So DOTD has made some commitments to us because of this road transfer that's playing a large part here. Also, you see Highway 42, and I think that's 930 in the upper part of the parish as well. So we also have the bridge repair and replacement projects noted on the chart, and we're also showing you in gray the future regional corridor, which will come into play as we go forward in the slides. Those were the primary projects. Many of you have made requests about projects and asked that they be placed in the supplemental list. This graphic kind of starts to paint the picture. If you focus on the outer regional corridor, you'll see in the southern part of the parish where there were just the red dots. You'll see we're filling that in with the olive line. We would try to fill in the dots and complete those segments of the regional corridor with the supplemental project money. Highway 621 going east-west through the center of the parish is also on there, as well as several other projects that all of you mentioned or requested that we place in supplemental projects, and we're going to go through a detailed list, so I don't want to be redundant. You know, how did we come up with these project estimates? We feel that we're being very conservative. We have recent historical data from local parish projects as well as DOTD. These estimates are very comprehensive in terms of looking at wetland mitigation, utility, right-of-way, environmental, contingencies, engineering, testing, and management. So we're taking these estimates from cradle to grave and feel that they're very realistic estimates. From here on out, if you have a hard copy in front of you or you want to follow along, I'm literally going to list every single intersection or project that we're proposing along with the budget. I'll go through it somewhat rapidly, but you have a hard copy in front of you. If you'd like to make some notes or ask questions, we're certainly available, but these are the projects that we are proposing at this time based upon the public meetings and the input that we have received. Airline Highway would represent 3 major intersection improvements that are listed there. Also, Roddy at Airline Highway would be a 4th intersection improvements. There would be additional travel lanes for 8 miles of Airline Highway, as well as access control modifications throughout the limits of the parish. The regional corridor improvements, LA 42 widening, as we noted, is a commitment that DOTD has already made. I'm showing several other intersections along that outer corridor. I'm not going to list each one. These are 4 additional intersections in that corridor, and then the last 3. So the regional corridor improvements are totaling $55.6 million. Local corridor improvements, again, referring back to the map, these were all of the yellow dots. We actually have 4 sheets of these where we list every specific project. You'll note that the estimates are at this point $2.5 million per intersection. Some of these intersections may be more. We think most of these will be less. We're using this as an average, but we feel it's a good average to go into the program. Again, this is 4 more of those local corridor intersections, and then 3 more. What the total is, it's about 15 of them, but so our total there is $32.5 million in local corridor improvements. Bridge replacements and repairs, 3 sheets of these. We all have differing estimates in terms of what the cost to replace or rehabilitate. We're listing all these specifically. There's 4 more, and then the last 2, about $5.5 million in bridge replacement work. DOTD projects, as I mentioned, these were the items in purple. LA 930 widening, and then one of the intersections at 930 and 929, and then we begin a series of intersections down 44 for a total of about $20.3 million in state. These would be state monies. Supplemental projects, again, this is the list that many of you requested. Highway 621 widening, 6 miles, very expensive price tag. LA 74 at Coontrap, LA 73 widening from Highway 30 to Highway 74. LA 431 widening, 2 different segments of that. Airline Highway widening south of Roddy to LA 30. Some more supplemental projects: Duval Road, St. Landry, LA 74 extension, LA 30 extension. A lot of these were requested last week after the transportation meeting. So that's the completion of the list, and again, after the presentation, we'll be happy to answer questions on that. There is an additional project we're considering on the West Bank for some Highway 1 intersection improvements that we learned about today that has not been on the list, but there is still time to add this prior to the, and I think Malcolm and Jim can give you more in terms of that timeline. Okay, speaking of timeline, this is where we are. As you know, we held 2 public information meetings on the 16th and the 22nd. Last Tuesday was Transportation Committee meeting. Today is Finance Committee meeting. 6/21 is June 21st is the full council approving the matter going to the voters. It's very important for you to understand that within 2 or 3 days, I believe, of that council meeting, the public advertisements need to commence in order for the bond commission to hear this in August. So it's very important to make our November election to have council approval June 21st. Should the council decide to move forward, we're scheduling neighborhood meetings August through October to help communicate this plan to the public, and then once again the election date November 6th. So that's just as quick as I can run through it. 3 of us are here. If you have any questions, be happy to answer any questions regarding the program, and we left the hard copy for you so you can bring it home and study the detailed project list as well. Thank you.
Kent.
Thank you. Appreciate all the work. This is something certainly needed. I have a question. This does not include any municipalities, right?
That is correct.
So they won't be putting into the fund, so to speak. And we've basically done all the improvements and outside of the municipalities.
That's correct. The original contemplation with DOTD did include the cities. The credits were actually larger, but there were also projects in the cities. So we basically took out the transfers in the cities, we took out the projects in the cities, and so it's basically the whole program is just a little bit smaller.
We do have Airline Highway and Highway 44.
Yes.
That's in the city.
No, the portions of 44 that we're working on are outside the
okay,
city
you're
of
using the one
Gonzales.
from, okay, so that's, okay, I was just trying to
But
understand that.
There's nothing that precludes those municipalities from passing a tax in the future, from coming on board in terms of the road transfer program or doing their own improvements. It's just the logistics of timing of, the parish and each of the 3 municipalities proved to be difficult.
Well, and that's what I was trying to get at. If there is something that is mutually beneficial, if there could be some partnering, that would be great also, because we can best utilize our monies. I know it's very hard to ask people in outlying areas of the parish to put up monies and then make improvements inside. I didn't notice on there that 3127 extension proposal. It was not on any supplemental or anything.
There was some discussion about that today. Certainly it can be added. My personal thought is that's a state evacuation route. If we're talking about the same one going up the west side, I would personally would tend to leave that for the state to do and not for the parish. But that's a prerogative that you could certainly add that route if you would like to do so.
Well, there's a lot of reasons for doing roads, and obviously capacity is very important to the people. Also, economic development is just as important when you start adding this, and I believe that at some point in time, with 3127 stopping as it is, all of the west banks of all the river parishes is hindered from economic development because of not having any roads that go through, and it's something that's coming up over and over again. I would think that as at least a supplemental, we should do that so that there can be some engineering, that we would have some input into the route that would go through the parish, and it would give us some type of funds that we can kind of jumpstart this, because with all of the industry that we have, and there's no way of transporting this without going through all these municipalities, we're really hindering ourselves economically.
So you're speaking of extending it north, is it 70 where it tees in?
Yes.
You're not talking about continuing the 4-lane where it is now. You're talking about actually extending the alignment northward.
Right.
Okay.
You know, to have a proposal that we could jumpstart so we can get state and federal funding, because it's really that important.
Right. I think
we need
to
look at
fund
that.
the engineering would certainly be appropriate. I think as you know, it's going to be a pretty large price tag, construction-wise. But I mean, certainly even just to put it in there in state engineering would be fine.
Well, that's what I would like to see us go forward with something. This is something that can be done because it's going through very few landowners, and it's something that is needed and wanted. A lot of time you have people standing up and trying to fight you for right of way and things such for roads, and this is something that for relatively low cost. So if we could do the engineering, I think the funds would come from the state and federal government to continue that project, and I think it would be very cost effective to us to spend our money in those areas where we could get some immediate feedback and economic development. I think we would see that benefit coming back in taxes being paid by the industry that would locate and the residences that would come back. So I think we should look into it. Thank you.
Councilman Satterley.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Sanji, for the presentation. Just a couple quick questions. You mentioned in your summary at the very beginning of your presentation that there'll be a gradual transfer of state roads to the parish. Can I get a list of those roads? And then how exactly were the roads, whichever ones are on that list, decided upon?
The state has the state has a statewide program where they have several routes they have identified that they want to give back to the parishes and the local communities. So we started with the state's wish list. When they looked at our plan or the concept of the regional corridor, that helped them affirm what routes that they want to keep, which routes that they don't. But we can get you a specific list. It was in the presentation last week. We can give you not only a specific list, but a dollar amount of when that route is transferred, how many dollars in credits we would receive in federal funding for doing that.
Now, when you say that it's a wish list, a state's wish list that they want to get rid of, so why do they want to get rid of the roads that are involved? Are they up to snuff? Are they in a good state of repair?
No, it has nothing to do with the condition of the road. They're trying to keep roads that have a regional significance. In other words, connecting regions of the state, as well as routes that have a significant impact on industry as well.
So the list is mostly connector roads, you're saying?
Yes, right.
All right, and the final question, you mentioned at the end of your presentation that there will be neighborhood meetings held between the months of August to October. How many meetings are envisioned, or are they at this point, and where will they likely be held?
At this point, the agenda has not been set for that. I believe we have a communications consultant coming on board to help with that, but the number of meetings and locations and all that still has not been determined. I mean, the next action would be for the council to agree to put the item on the ballot, and at that point we would proceed into these informational meetings.
Thank you, sir.
Councilman Lambert.
Yeah, this might be going to Jim on this one. Jim, we're going to bond this money, and we have to put aside, from what I've heard at some of the other workshops, a certain amount of this money have to be put aside as surplus, 20%, 25%. You can't use all the bond money that you borrow. That money is dedicated, correct? Even though it's a surplus. You cannot use it for maintenance of the roads. Am I right?
Let me. That's not a yes or no question, Mr. Lambert.
Okay.
The reality is that people like Mr. Lambert's firm, Cruz and Associates, will not let you borrow against 100% of your sales tax revenue.
Correct.
There is a state prohibition if you do a sales tax revenue bond of bonding against 75% of your estimated revenues, and that's typically There are ways to get around that, but typically in the market, what you can really borrow against is about 80% of your revenue stream, estimated revenue stream. The other 20% would still be dedicated to the proposition call. Obviously, the proposition hasn't been written yet, but if it's the wish of the council, which you all will vote on, I think, June the 21st, there'll be a summary of the proposition, and it will say something to the effect of, Councilman Lambert, for the purpose of constructing, improving, maybe the word maintaining, maybe the word not maintaining, but it'll have a description of exactly what you can do with that money.
Okay.
And I think it's the envisionment of the council and the administration, and I certainly don't mean to speak for you all or the administration, to actually have a list of the projects in the proposition that say intersection at Roddy Road and I'm going to make myself sound ignorant. Joe Severio Road. I'm not sure they intersect, but put those two things in there so that the money has to be dedicated for those specific projects.
Yeah. But Jim, the big thing, and Mike might want to answer this also, was using some of that money for maintenance, because we're taking in a lot of these intersections, improving them. We're going to take in a lot of state highways. I know we're getting credits when we take in these roads, but once we take them in, they're ours. We have the liability, they're our roads. So down the road, we're going to have some maintenance money. And the maintenance money that we have in the budget now is not enough to handle all the roads that we're going to be taking in. So I would like to see some of this half cents, whether it's this 20% surplus, put in the maintenance.
Yeah, I think,
and I don't know if who's going to be putting this. Malcolm, you going to be putting this together with administration's approval or wants, I guess?
I think right now, Councilman Lambert, that what you're looking at probably is out of the $8 million a year that it would generate, you would easily have, if you did two $40 million bond issues, you would easily have about $3 million a year, which is way more than the 20% in the very beginning. And as your sales taxes generally increase a little bit every year, and I think the last rating agency presentation we did on a 20-year historical average, your sales taxes increased by about 7 or 8% a year on average. And I can give you a real-world example. We did $40 million worth of sales tax road bonds for Livingston Parish 6 years ago, and we bonded up to that 75% max. So you had 75% of the initial in year one. Let's say in 2006, 75% was going to debt service, 25% was going to maintenance. And I'm pretty sure that right now, 6 years later, it's about 50-50. The same dollar amount still going to the debt service, but because their sales taxes have increased 6-7% a year for 6 years, now the debt service eats up about 50% of what they do, and about 50% of it's left for maintenance. Could I impose upon you to jump back to one of the things Mr. Shakespeare said?
Sure.
Address him real quick.
I have a question after that, but go ahead.
Thank you, Councilman Lambert. To answer one of your earlier questions, Mr. Shakespeare, I think this is where you were going. The way that the proposition will be written, because it's sales tax district, and the sales tax district is outside of the incorporated areas, it'll literally be illegal for us or anybody else to spend the money collected in the district inside the city limits. You just can't.
Right.
That's what I was getting.
Yeah, one thing on the maintenance, I know the state, we had a guy talk from the state at the last meeting. He did say that we would get some funds from federal, it's not guaranteed funds though, it's for maintenance. On any way we take in the state highways, they would be available. That was one thing. I guess the next thing is on these intersection improvements, Ben or Mike, I would like to know, what are we doing at all these intersections? Are we doing some just left-hand, right-hand turn lanes? Are we doing some roundabouts? If we could specify that on all the list of improvements.
At this point, we obviously have not studied each individual intersection to be able to answer that question. I think what we would do if the tax passed is that we would engage consultants, select consultants to do the engineering, and then in the very initial stage, look at different types of intersections. It may be turn lanes, it may be a roundabout, whatever, and look at different options, study them, and make the best determination. So we've been careful not to say that it's going to be a roundabout or it's going to be a turn lane or it's going to be a traffic signal until we study it and come up with the most feasible option. We're just not in a position to recommend. So at this point, we're very, very open to whatever works best.
Well, I just noticed you put a dollar amount, and y'all said y'all did some study on, it would take that amount.
Right.
So
Well,
that's
we-
going to be a big factor on whether it's a roundabout or, you know, because you're going to have to take,
Right, and, you
buy a
know-
whole lot more property.
Right. If we're looking at an option and that costs us to be $3, $4, $5 million, obviously I think we're going to stay away from it and go to a different option. But we have a pretty good feel whether it's different types of intersection improvements as to what you're going to spend. I mean, generally your engineering, your right-of-way, all those costs are going to be pretty much the same. But we will look at different options, and we do feel good that we can come up with a solution for the money we have budgeted.
Well, just input that, you know, the 20% or whatever in that surplus, I would definitely like to push for maintenance if it's written that way. You can put my comment in there. I don't know where that's all going. Thank you.
Thank you, Todd. Councilman Lambert.
Yeah, Mike, also on your revenue analysis, just to clear it up, we're not looking at starting our improvements in 2 years. Whatever you'll have in that in 2 years, it'll so be. But the projects, we can get started, you know, if this passes. You know, I don't see it 2 years starting a project.
Oh, I
I'd
would
say
hope
sooner.
in 2 years we do start some projects. Let me explain that a little further.
Please.
The yellow dots are 100% local money, okay? As fast as we can go through your procurement process, hire engineers, get a design done, acquire right-of-way. We all know quick take is a issue here, but as soon as we can acquire right-of-way and we have the funds, we can build those projects as quickly as we can do them.
And I want to hold you right there. With this quick take, I mean, with the credits, at these intersections, if we move this as the parish, can we move these projects quicker with them, the state turning it over to us? And where we don't have to go through a lot of specs to get these intersections improved quicker.
Let me make sure I understand the question. You're asking whether we would be better off transferring the road to the parish before we make the improvement to the intersection?
What I'm getting at, a lot of these intersections, we already have the survey, and we need the right-of-way is what
Right,
we need.
that's correct.
Is, you know, a lot of this stuff is still on the shelf. We can go to work quick on that stuff, being approved by the voters, but I just don't want it to get out there where it's going to take 2 years to start any improvement. I think we could start work quicker than 2 years.
Well, if you have some engineering already done, I would certainly agree with you. And I do think that we could, within 2 years, have projects under construction. The one caveat I'm going to make to that is the quick take mechanism. I think as it stands now, you have to wait up to 1 year, or actually what was proposed was 1 year. The quick take could be a factor in accelerating those projects. And I think if you get the tax passed, obviously I think you would go back to the legislature again with a more urgent need to have that quick take mechanism. But aside, presuming you had cooperative right-of-way acquisitions, I don't see a reason, understanding your procurement process, that we couldn't have projects under construction in 2 years. And let me mention this: in our program in Baton Rouge, half of our projects were on state routes, and I'm happy to say that we did not. And for all those state routes, even though it was 100% local money, we had to pull permits from DOTD to improve their highway. We were very happy to report that process really did not slow us down. So what I want to be clear about is these local intersection improvement projects don't necessarily have anything to do with the timing of the transfer program. we could be doing an intersection improvement on a state route. DOTD knows they're going to give it back to us, may or may not give us some leeway on the specifications. I don't know that that matters, but that road being transferred is really, from a time standpoint, is more dependent on those federal monies coming in to those regional projects. Once they commit enough money to us on the regional projects, then we're going to pick a state route and say, okay, let's take it into the parish. So I know it's confusing, but they're really happening independently. But I really don't see the DOTD process slowing us down.
Right.
Councilman Lohr.
I wanted to reiterate what Mr. Ryan said in regards to the ballot initiative and make sure that I have it straight. So after tonight's meeting and the council meeting on the 21st, assuming that passes, we will be passing authorization to put it on the ballot with the list of primary projects and the list of supplemental projects that will be specified on the ballot, correct?
Yeah, I'm going to let Malcolm Dugas talk about that.
Gentlemen, if you all would like to close discussion at this point and allow Mr. Malcolm to give his presentation, then some of your questions may be answered and perhaps other questions could then be answered.
Sure.
Malcolm, would you like to proceed, please? Thank you.
In general, the way that I have prepared a basic draft of a resolution, which is not final. And the way it's drafted, it will specify different particular intersections or sites where work will be done. If the council chooses to, or if the sales tax district, which is really the body that will implement the tax with the approval of the council, chooses to, they can make that read somewhat as follows. And I'll read from a document that we've used in the past, where it says to be used to construct, acquire, extend, expand, improve, maintain, and operate roads and bridges, including but not limited to the following. And then you put your list. And you specify particular sites. If you want to specify primary sites and secondary sites, the taxing authority can do that. So it's whatever y'all choose to do. But it's my understanding from discussions with the administration and also some of the council that they want to be specific to make sure that certain projects will get done. We can do that by listing them in the proposition, which will go to the voters in November 6th for their consideration. That proposition will also include the term of the tax. A tax can be 1 year, it can be perpetual, it can be anywhere in between. That's up to the council to decide. The council wants to say 20, 25, whatever in that decision would be made, that can be brought up and considered at the meeting. The timeline that we're looking at, it's my understanding from administration is this wants to be put, the proposition wants to be on the November 6th ballot. That being the case, we have to get it in front of and passed by the taxing authority and the council no later than June 21st. If that doesn't happen, then we're going to miss that window of opportunity. And the reason for that is there's so many requirements that you meet. It has to be published so many times. It has to go to the State Bond Commission. And to meet all those deadlines, that's why the 21st is so critical. So if the Finance Committee chooses to do this, then my recommendation would be that y'all make a motion that this be sent to the taxing district and to the parish council for consideration at its June 21st meeting. And I'll be glad to try and answer any questions anybody has.
Madam Chair, could I?
Yes, Chris.
Okay, thank you. So, Malcolm, I guess my point was, so we have that option to put it on the ballot with specific projects, is what you said.
Yes.
My personal preference would be that we absolutely do that. I think it's important that when this gets assuming this passes through the council and is put on the ballot, that it remain, we do a website, it's completely transparent about those projects from here, you know, through their construction and everything else, so we can hold ourselves accountable to the people, so they can see that the money that they voted on is only going to that. And I think that's a very big consideration, and it has to be to like that on the ballot, frankly, in my opinion. That's
And
it.
this was, Councilman Lambert, you asked a question about maintenance.
Correct.
I mean, that's included in the proposition.
It is.
To allow for maintenance on any particular project that is in this proposition.
What about existing parish roads that we may not have enough maintenance fund for now? Can we use that money for maintenance of parish roads?
I would think not.
So it has to be dedicated to the roads that we're gonna, or intersections or state highways that we take in. We can only maintenance it.
Yeah, but the list that we have is fairly extensive. So I don't think it's going to be a problem to find places to use the money.
Okay.
Councilman Shake Snyder.
Yes, excuse me. And I think in the past, we've worded things as such, and if you put in maintaining those parish roads, could we put up to percentage would be spent on maintenance as part of the bonding request?
Yes. I mean, this proposition can be drafted any way.
Yeah. That way it would allow for the parish to protect itself on maintenance, but it wouldn't force you to use what would be unnecessary for maintenance, but it would allow you to a certain percentage. And I would like to request that administration take a look at it and make a recommendation on how much would be the maximum that would be needed, and then you could have an up to X percentage.
Sure.
Could be used on maintenance, and that way it would protect people to not get in a in a situation there. And it would also protect people to make sure that we just didn't take all the money and use it for maintenance. We had to do the projects. I think that would be a very good way to satisfy everybody. In particular, we can do all the projects, and if we had an emergency maintenance, we could use monies that was available.
In the resolution that will be presented to the council and the taxing district on the 21st can be adjusted, you know, at the meeting. I mean, it doesn't have to be, whatever is presented is not written in stone. So there can be changes made at that time.
Councilman Kluwat.
Yeah, Malcolm. I just want to make it clear to everybody that, you know, we're sitting here and we're developing a list, primary list, secondary list. That it's not that we would want to spend that money on something other than these projects, or projects in particular, traffic improvement projects, safety improvement projects for that. But we're not bound to an exact, if we didn't list an intersection somewhere on the bond, that doesn't mean that we cannot go forward with trying to do something with an intersection.
If that's the way you want the proposition to read,
That's
the
what
way
I'm
it will
talking
read.
about.
Yes.
We have that ability to write that. We have the ability to put maintenance, the word maintenance in there. So we have the latitude to do within the boundaries of the law what we want with this proposition.
That's correct.
To cover the best interests of the people of Ascension Parish, because our priorities, sometimes priorities change and sometimes things change.
That is correct.
I just want to make that clear.
Councilman Todd Lambert.
Yeah, I guess, you know, and why I'm asking for this 20% of going to the parish roads, I know we need all these intersection improvements to help move traffic, and most of them are happening on state highways. But to help sell this tax to the public, they're going to see a certain percentage going to parish roads. So that's why I'm thinking that 20%, not just for the projects, but additional money for parish roads, regardless if this on the project roads. You know, the project roads are going to get done, but we need some additional maintenance money out of this half-cent sales tax, is what I would like to see try to push for it, but I don't know if that's possible. Because we do not have enough maintenance. Like, take for instance right now, we probably got a list of 75 to 100 roads in the parish right now. We're probably going to do the top 25 this year because it's all the funding we have for them. You know, I see a need for more maintenance money.
The only thing I want to caution is that up until today, we have not budgeted any funds for maintenance. So we're trying to balance the projects with the funding that we foresee available. So if we're going to carve out 10%, 20%, whatever the number is.
It's not carving out though, it's the surplus. You know, it's the money that, you know, continue
Right.
using your project. You have to put this surplus aside.
Well, but remember, there's also been a lot of, you know, what we're calling supplemental projects added. If you're going to have a chance of doing those supplemental projects, you're going to need that surplus money. You're going to need sales taxes to rise. You're going to need favorable bond
And if
rates.
that case, we come back in 15, 20 years, and we have all these roads taken in from the state, we still have our little maintenance money that we have. We can't repair the roads that we took in. So
Right. All I want to, it's one pot of money.
I know it's good right now. I know it's a rush deal. Let's get these roads done. Let's get them all done now, quick, let's go. But think about 15, 20 years from
Right.
now, when we
Understood.
don't have what it takes, and it's not going to be us up here. It's going to be our kids and grandkids that needs to repair these roads, and the funding is not going to be there.
Yeah.
So that's kind of,
No, I'm totally with you. My suggestion would be not to be specific in terms of a certain percentage has to go to maintenance or not. You, the council, whoever it is, as the future rolls forward, you're going to approve every engineering contract. You're going to be approving the direction of the program. And so if maintenance becomes an issue, you're going to be looking at the administration saying, hey, we have the right, we need to steer some money. I would favor not being specific with a percentage, having the word maintenance in there where, I mean, the council may have the latitude to do more than the percentage, like you're saying, in 15 years to give yourself the greatest flexibility. But all I'm saying is to date, we haven't run any models for maintenance, and understand that money would probably tend to start reducing the amount of supplemental projects that you can do. But again, I think the council is going to have plenty of input on those decisions as the program moves forward.
Councilman Johnson.
I would tend to agree. I think if you've got it in there to where the maintenance dollars can be spent where they needed to be directed, I would tend to think that the council would make that decision as you go through this thing. But we're trying to make it an agreement with the public and make sure that they understand that we want to get these intersections, these road improvements done, and to hold fast is what we're saying we need to do. And Todd's got a good point as far as maintenance into the future, and it's something that as we go through this process and we look at how we're currently spending our monies and what's better ways of getting more efficient with how we're doing our projects today with the current funding that we currently have and getting the most bang for our buck with what we do have with that funding is giving us the flexibility to look at that stuff and make sure that we can make the decisions, and the people that come behind us can make the decisions necessary to get things done in a more economic and timely fashion.
Councilman Chase-Knight.
Well, we just have to all remember, this is a capital improvement bond that we're going for capital improvements. And in order to get something done, you have to name that, and I think it's very important for people to do it. If you're gonna say you're gonna come in, you build a fire station, you need to build a fire station. If we need to do roads, we need to do roads. I think we need to be very careful, put the wording in there to allow some maintenance to be done. Be very careful as to how much is allowed, that because we don't want to hinder completing the projects. The number one issue that we have is completing these projects that we're coming before the people to do. That's our number one thing. That's what we're going to ask people to do. I think we can do that and allow up to a certain percentage in maintenance. We have other ways of getting maintenance money in the next few years. We have bonds that's going to be maturing shortly. We have we're going to have an increase in in funding. We're also going to be, by doing capital improvements, we're going to be freeing up monies that will allow us to do some more maintenance. So I think that's an important way to look at it, but we need to be accountable to the people with, this is what we want to do, this is how we're going to do it, and I think that needs to be there, and be very careful with what else we're going to do with it. And so let's have our wording where we're very specific, and also I think it's very important that we include all areas of the parish, because we're going before the vote of the people of the parish, and if we overlook areas of the parish on any type of project or any type of improvement, this is not going to go very far. So if everybody is going to be wishful of getting this done, hopeful, which I certainly am, and I hope everyone else is. The need is tremendous, but we need to make sure that everywhere is included, so that all people feel like that they have some part of it, and they're going to see some improvement in their area.
Councilman Dempsey Lambert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And look, this is most probably one of the best opportunities we're going to have to put this together. And mentioning, the fire stations, the schools, everything that's on these roads that the state is wanting to turn over. Look, we can't even set a speed limit on some of these intersections at the fire stations because it doesn't meet their specs. We get these roads into our systems, we can set the speed limit. We can set the priorities that we need. And I just hope that everyone realizes this is most probably one shot that, is in a lifetime here. And this is roads that we travel every day, parish, state. So, it's just one of those things that really looking forward to.
Councilman Cluott.
Yeah, just once again on the half-cent sales tax, I believe we have some latitude with the bonding to do what we need to do. And, as it was brought up before, we're sitting here today in 2012. I'm sure 20 years ago, other council members, other police chairmen were sitting here talking about this, okay? All right, we have a definite need. We're behind time, big time, with the road improvements within this parish and transportation. Another thing on the transfer program from the DOTD, once again, and I've said it in a bunch of meetings, this is an opportunity for us, okay? This opportunity is coming to us. They got it out there. There's going to be a point where DOTD is not going to serve this area. I mean, we're having to take up the slack for DOTD on plenty of roads right now. The guys there's nothing wrong with the people that's running it. They don't have the budget. And to divert that federal money into our areas with their help and what we're doing with this transfer program, and they're taking more of a concentrated look on the major corridors that's transferring through the parish. We need to take our responsibility and take a look at how we want the parish to look on going in and around the parish. So this is an opportunity here. I've never seen this type of opportunity before. So we have latitude with the bond to write it however we want within the legal limits and take care of everything we need to take care of, and also leave some latitude should this council completely change out in years and people have a different direction of where they want to go with this parish, that they can divert that money and stay within the bounds of the bond. We've done it in other departments within this parish, and we can do it with this bond also. Thank you.
Councilman Lohr.
Well, to that point, I think the latitude and the flexibility will come in on the supplemental projects and the maintenance and all that. And as Michael said, as those come before us or future council, we can evaluate as needed. Same at the DOTD, every one of those road transfers. It's not like it's going to happen overnight. They would have to come to us and evaluate, much like we did with Joseph Ario. My question, actually, I wanted to ask Ben if he could elaborate on some comments he made at the Transportation Committee meeting regarding efficiencies and maintenance, since that was brought up.
Right. So regardless of the outcome of this program, if the tax moves forward or not, the parish does need to improve its maintenance spending. We have embarked on that process already. We have software that will help us monitor the entire network. We're working towards getting a score for all of our roads, because technically all of our roads are on our maintenance list. There are just some that are higher than others because they're in more need. But eventually they all need to be maintained. By approaching the network maintenance more holistically, looking at the entire network and applying targeted treatments that extend the life of the roads rather than waiting for the roads to deteriorate to the condition that some of our roads are in, we reduce the overall maintenance cost. And other municipalities, other counties across the country have employed these techniques, and I've got my pavement preservation magazine over there that I was flipping through a little while ago. 20 to 40% of their maintenance dollars are recovered by employing targeted, intelligent maintenance approaches. So regardless of whether or not we have a half-cent tax-funded program, we are going to be moving towards that and improving the overall efficiency of our maintenance and our preservation program for our roads. And in addition to that, as Councilman Schick-Snyder mentioned, there are additional funds that will be coming into the maintenance. Right now, there is a debt service on a bond that was issued in 2001, I believe, that will be paid off in 2016. And that's approximately $1.5 million a year that will be coming back into our maintenance program. So there's funds that will be, returning into the maintenance program to help fund additional improvements, and then by reinvesting those into the program, the overall network condition improves.
So you're basically saying in 4 years we'll have a few $1 million more between the $1.5 million off the bond, not having that debt payment, and your efficiencies, which you guys are moving forward regardless.
Right. The efficiencies would be above and beyond that, but in 2016, approximately $1.5 million will be coming back into the maintenance program that is currently dedicated to relieving debt service on the 2001 bond.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben, very much.
On that note, Mr. Sanju's sales tax collection projections are extremely conservative. He's budgeting 1% a year collections. So, again, if you just go historically, when you and Livingston confuse all the time, were y'all 7 and they're 9, or are y'all 9 and they're 7? Historically, over 20 years, what do you do sales tax increase a year on average? About 7%, 8%? So, Mr. Sanji being ultra conservative with his numbers, he's budgeting a 1% increase in sales tax a year. You're probably really realistically looking at a minimum of 6-7% a year. And that's why I say when you get out even 5 or 6 years from now, right now you might be spending 75% of your money on debt service, but in 5 or 6 years, more than likely you're only going to be spending about half your money on debt service. One other thing I wanted to mention, Mr. Moore, about a question you asked a while back too, was for our timeline, this can be tweaked and amended, and this list is obviously up to y'all's discretion and the administration's discretion. We can put anything we want to in the proposition as far as, this list. But that's got to be finalized up on the 21st. If we go past the 21st, we're going to miss the November 6th ballot deadline.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other presenters? Any other questions? I think we need a motion to
move to the full council.
Move to the full council. I have a motion by Councilman Kluwat and a second by Councilman Johnson to move to the full council. Do I have any questions? Any objections? Then it is so moved. Item number 9, Brian Bush Construction, change order number 003, which is a decrease of $1,248.04.
Motion, Madam Chairman.
Motion.
Second.
And have a second. And
Decrease. So.
Mark, do you want to say anything? My fire chief is good. We thank you, Mark, for the great work that's being done by the Prairieville Fire Department District 3.
Thank you all for your support. Thank you, Mark.
You're quite welcome. So I have a motion and a second, and any questions? And since they're hearing none, any objections? Hearing none, so the motion passes. Item number 10, the LSU Board of Supervisors Cooperative Endeavor Agreement for Ascension Parish 4-H County Agent position. I don't know who will be presenting on this. I assume it's Bobby Fletcher.
I'll do it. This is, we've always provided these funds for the 4-H.
Okay.
It's okay.
Please, sir, identify yourself.
I am not Dr. Bobby Fletcher. I'm Albert Ogeron. I am the parish chairman here in Ascension Parish for the LSU Ag Center.
represent our office. We have our 4-H agent, Ms. Nicole Kleber, that y'all funds have previously supported. As you know, in the parish, we have over 1,200 youth engaged in our 4-H program, and we asked the council today to consider entering into a new agreement on supporting a 4-H agent for the parish. Recent state reductions in funding has really put a handicap on us and how we operate. And last year we were able to hire Nicole to come in and to add another staff member to really touch these youth. So we respectively ask for your support for this.
I have a motion from Councilman Coolhouse, a second from Councilman Todd Lambert. Any questions? Go ahead.
This is in addition to what we're already doing, is that correct?
Y'all had done this last year. This is to support a staff member in addition to what you.
It's renewal in the budget.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions? A motion and a second. Any objections? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 11, Fire District 1, tax proposals for 15 mil property tax plus a parcel fee, with a PowerPoint presentation by Chief LeBlanc and Mr. Bill Dawson.
Madam Chair, Council, I wish ours could go this smooth, but we definitely got some agenda items to talk about with the fire service. For the new councilman, Fire District number 1 is the 6 volunteer fire departments that are on the east bank of the river, and the parish has 3 fire districts. Fire District number 1 is all the volunteer departments. Fire District number 2 is the Donaldsonville area. Fire District number 3 is, of course, the Prairieville area. So for over a year, Fire District number 1 has been working on a proposal to try to get more funding to move the fire service into the direction we need to go in. And I'm here tonight, the fire coordinator's here tonight, we have some fire chiefs here tonight, but I'd like to turn the floor over to Mr. Bill Dawson, who's a resident of Ascension Parish, doesn't sit on the fire board. He is the chairman of this committee that's been working for real hard for 6 to 8 months now, but we've been working on the project for well over a year. So a little PowerPoint presentation, and then we'll answer any questions that any of the councilmen may have. Mr. Bill Dawson.
Bill, welcome. We're thrilled to have you here too.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I'm not going to take, hopefully, won't take a lot of your time. I would like to give you a little bit of background. As Chief LeBlanc said, he appointed a committee to look into additional funding for Fire District number 1 sometimes around the first of the year. We had representatives from each fire department, all 6 fire departments, and we met several times. We looked at several different proposals, and we actually started off at a 10 mil rate. And we looked at that. But when you look at the 10 mils, it produces about $2 million. If you look at the presentation, you'll see that to have only 2 firefighters at every station on shift, that's a $2 million bill in itself. So we moved to the 15 mils, and we feel like that's a reasonable request, and we feel like that the residents of Ascension Parish will see the difference in fire protection, if this is passed. So now I will try to stumble through this. Help me out.
He doesn't have it. He doesn't have your presentation, Mr. Bill.
Oh, they don't have it? Okay. Well, we sent it in, but I also, if
you can probably put it on.
You guys, I think we handed this out to everyone, and I have all the slides in here, so I'll go through this. Additionally, at the back of this are some details. I've gone over some, this with some of you, but it gets into as much detail as we got into as the committee to say what these funds could be used for. So the first thing we'll talk about is current conditions, and as Chief LeBlanc said, there are 6 fire departments within the district. Obviously, you guys know all this. is all of Ascension Parish except for Gonzales and Prairieville generally, and across the river. We serve about 70,000 plus people within Fire District Number 1. Our current PIL rating is 5, 1 to 10, with the lower the number, the better the rating. Fire District Number 1 is governed by a 5-member board who are appointed by the Ascension Parish Council. Currently, they receive 65% of 33% of 1/2 cent of sales tax. Generally, that's the sales and use tax, District Number 2. For us, it generates about $1.5 million a year. So that's what the district has been operating on for, the last several years. All the departments are voluntary. Sorrento has some paid firefighters. Fire District Number 1 has some paid firefighters, but we don't have, none of the departments have paid firefighters that are on 24-hour duty. So what we're proposing, and so like I said, they generate right now $1.5 million. If you look at what's necessary for just operating expenses, about $1 million a year. Out of that $1.5 million, there's $400-something thousand a year that's dedicated to bond payments. So we have to give these guys a lot of credit for a very little amount of money. They've been able, along with the help of a lot of volunteers, they've been able to get a very decent fire rating within our district. Without going through the rest of, what the expenses currently are, they're generally about $1 million or $1.5 million a year. What we're proposing now is a $15 mil, $32, $100 parcel fee. This will generate approximately $3.5 million. So I've got a breakdown of exactly what that $3.5 million will be used for. The biggest portion of it, I have to look at this, the personnel is $2.9 million. $2.2 million of that is for 12 firefighters and 1 captain per shift. So what we would have if this passed would be 36 new firefighters, 3 new captains. Additionally, we would have a district-wide fire chief, an assistant chief, and 5 support personnel to support the chief and the district. In addition to that, we would be able to escrow approximately $750,000 a year for vehicle replacement and station replacement and improvement. Currently, at the $1.5 million a year, we're not able to put away any money for future repairs or future expansions. In addition to that, it leaves about $100,000 a year for emergencies and contingencies. We also have about $2.5 million in our fund balance. So what we're proposing there is it's going to take about $1.2 million in station improvements to allow 24-hour operation. So we're recommending that some of that be used. If you just look around, you glance around at neighboring districts, I have a list in here, and St. George has a 20 mills. They have a fire rating of 2. In East Baton Rouge Parish, District Number 6 has 40 mills and a fire rating of 2. This is PIL ratings, I'm sorry. Central has a millage of 15 and a 3. Brownsfield has 20 mills and a 3. In St. Tammany Parish, they have 35 mills, 28 mills, and they have 3 fire ratings. If you go to Livingston Parish, they're at 10 mills, and they have 4 and 5 PIL ratings. Prairieville has 20 mills right now, and they have a 4 PIL. We currently, as I said earlier, our PIL rating is 5. I have some examples here of what 15 mills cost an average homeowner or someone that has a $150,000 house, be about $112 a year. I don't have the hard statistics on this, but we do know that if you lower the PIL rating, then the homeowner's insurance goes down. You know, I've read articles that it can go down as much as $300 per point. That's the end of the presentation. As I said, I have, you know, the details in the back of the packet, and I'll be glad to answer any questions.
I got one question.
Councilman Lambert?
Yeah, Mr. Dawes, I know you're saying we'll be able to bring down the point from 5 to maybe 4, but I think we talked at a workshop, without water there, it's going to be hard to get it any lower than that. Is that correct?
Well, I'm not an expert on that, so I'm going to leave that to, you know, to these guys.
You know, I know just by, you know, additional force, you still need
No
water.
doubt.
You still need your water there.
No doubt. This is just another step forward, but no
Yeah.
doubt to get to a better fire rating, you got to have parish-wide water. But keep in mind that,
Better than a 4.
yeah, better than the 4.
Better than the 4.
That's right.
We maybe
we
drop
gotta
to
have-
4, but that would be until you get water.
No doubt about it.
Okay. Thank you, James. No.
Okay.
That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Any other questions?
I'm sorry, Councilman Johnson.
And that's one thing, you know, I was just talking about with the rating. This is no guarantee for our new rating, but what it does is if you look at the load on the fire service in the past, and that has increased in the past 20 years, this gets us to a better location than where we are today, gets us more on the right track of where we need to be as far as fire protection within Fire District 1. There's no guarantees as far as rating or any of that kind of stuff. With the hard work of the volunteers we've got, we're privileged to be where we are today, and we set the standard in this state as well as national. A lot of things that we've accomplished with fire protection in the parish. This just gives us the opportunity to do more and continue that trend. And I want to thank the board and the committee members for working diligently as they have to bring this forward to us. And hopefully we can convince the public that this is something that will be needed in the future for the fire protection and fire service in the parish. Thank you.
Councilman Shea-Snyder?
Well, I just want to echo Councilman Johnson, thanking you guys for doing such a great job getting us to this point. I want people to realize that we're doing things right now with all volunteer force, and once this passes, we're still going to need the volunteers. I mean, these guys are doing a fantastic job, and we're getting to a point with our population and the number of incidences that we're putting people that are volunteers almost on a full-time basis getting calls and doing things like that, and you're beginning to see things of burnout and things of that sort that we're getting where, you know, it's just very hard to do that strictly from a volunteer basis. What we're going to be grateful for to assist us in keeping these volunteers is getting some full-time people to take care of some of the things that the volunteers don't need to do, because then they can go home and be with their families and do their jobs, come out there and fight the fires when they're needed, make the other calls that they're needed, and have somebody else take care of the stations and do some of the media work, not to say as a media work, but do some of the other jobs that can free up these firefighters that are putting so much time, these volunteers, so that they can do other things and we can keep them. I think that's going to be something that we're going to have to look forward to in the future. If we don't assist these volunteers, we're going to lose them. And so I want to make sure that everyone knows how valuable they are, and that in no way, shape, or form are we looking to replace volunteers. We're looking to supplement them and try to make things easier for them and try to make us more effective that way. And we appreciate everything that they have done and continue to do. It's very, very important as we go forward with that vision and I think y'all have done a great job, James, and this is just another step to get to the point where we want to be down the line in fire protection. So, wholeheartedly support what you're trying to do.
James, Mr. Dawson, do you have anything further?
I just wanted to say that the ball's in the court of the residents of Ascension Parish.
Right.
I mean, let's put it out there. Let's see what the residents want. Let's see what they say. But what we're asking the council to do is say, hey, look, please put this on the ballot for December, and let's see what the public wants. I mean, we're definitely blessed to have the volunteer departments that we have in Ascension Parish. We're definitely blessed to be, I don't know, Gene, 7, 8, 9, 10 years now with a Class 5 rating with all volunteers. So let's see what we can do now with paid people. And the only way to get that done is let the public speak.
I'll make a motion to put that on, to the full
Second.
council.
Excuse me, I have a motion and a second. Any questions? Dr. Sadler?
Yes, in terms of going on the ballot, you said December. Why not the November election?
Well, we weren't sure about the timing, and as you heard earlier, there's a fairly short leash on the timing, so we chose to go on December the 8th rather than in November.
Wouldn't you get a much bigger voter turnout if it were at the general election? After all, we'd be electing a president then of the United States.
Yeah. Well, it's really it was a matter of, again, trying to make all these deadlines. And we felt we'd have a lot, we would be a lot more comfortable if we stayed with December rather than trying to move to November.
Would this be a special election, or would there be other things on the ballot in December, or?
No, there's an election December the 8th, and we would just be a ballot. We would be on that ballot.
Right, so we're not costing the parish any more money to do it then, but we do risk a lower voter turnout than if we held it in November.
I'm not sure what else is on it in December.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Councilman Kluwer?
Yeah, just once again, like everybody else, thank y'all. I just want the people of the parish to know the work y'all put in, but the fact is that what you're doing is you're laying the groundwork for the future here, for the way we're going to have to operate our fire business within this parish, and what we need, the basis to get started on getting up to the 4s, 3s, and 2 ratings. And so that's all good.
Just one last comment. Fire District number 1 is 6 volunteer fire departments, and I just want to make sure the council understands that all 6 of these volunteer departments have endorsed this project.
We understand.
Thank you.
Madam Chairman?
Yes.
Yes, just one follow-up question. When we did the, in my district, the extra 10 mills last summer, I guess it was, to 20, I guess you're aware there was only, whatever the number was, 700, 800 people showed up to vote, and it passed by like less than 100 votes, 80, 99 votes, whatever it was. Again, I'm concerned that in your presentation, although we didn't have the PowerPoint, I read in there that this represents, outside of Gonzales and Prairieville, 72,000 people. If we only have a little over 100,000 people in the parish, we could have a whole lot more, I think, voting. Short fuse notwithstanding, if we could do this, I would be much more willing to support it if we could do this in the general election. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Any objections? Yes. And the motion passes. Item number 12, capital outlay, Oak Grove Community Center. Mr. Garney Gotro.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, committee members. This is about Oak Grove Community Center. That we've done a capital outlay project with them. We'd gotten $50,000 2 years ago and another $125,000 last year. And whenever we put it up for bids, I made a mistake, and we went to the capital outlay. We was $20,000 over what it should have been, and I didn't realize that when you go through capital outlays, you got to have a budget amendment. I mean, a motion to make it come up to exactly what you bidding out and all.
I make that motion, Madam Chairman.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions? Any objections? Motion passes.
That was
Thank you, Garney.
Item number 13, the sales and use tax report. Ms. Gwen LeBlanc.
You have before you your regular sales and use tax report. This is for the collection month of April, which represents March returns. You can see your 3 sales tax districts. East Ascension is first. You can see all the numbers for year to date and month compared to 2011, April, are all positive, all the way down. And you can see on the far right, the side of the paper, the budget comparison. And you can see that all of them are above budget. We're at 33% of the year. And you can see East Ascension drainage compared to the budget is in a positive 8.73. The 1 cent sales tax is a positive 10.7. And the sales tax district number 2 is a positive 10.35. Most of the increases can be attributed to activity in either the petrochemical industry or the retail industry. And if you turn to page 2 on your charts, this is looking at just our 1 cent sales tax district. And you can see the red is 12, the blue is 11 on the bar charts. And you can see that same increase on consumer retail increase for the month, year-to-date, January through April, 8.37%. Motor vehicles increased year-to-date 10.04%. And business-to-business increased 3.25%. And the petrochemical industry and their suppliers increased 22.45%. And then the third page is a pie chart, and this is not scientific, it's just to give you a general idea of what sector your sales taxes are being collected. And then once again, this represents only the 1% sales tax year-to-date. Petrochemical industry is at 52% of collections, consumer retail at 32%, motor vehicles 11%, and business-to-business 5%. And the last page of the report is a historical depiction of each of the sales tax districts. East Ascension Drainage, Ascension Parish, the 1% sales tax district, and the last bar chart is the half-cent sales tax district number 2. The yellow represents the year-to-date through April, and the red is the remainder of the year. And you can easily see that we're on target to surpass our highest sales tax collection year ever of 2008 if sales tax revenues continue as the track they're on now. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to respond.
Any questions, gentlemen?
Keep up the good work.
Yes, indeed. Moving right along, revenue and expenditure report, Ms. Shelley Vlog.
Good evening. Page 1 is represents total revenues. They're at 33.74% at 33.33% of the year. The items highlighted in green reflect the funds that are under the budget by 5% or more, and there's an explanation on page 4 for those. Page 2 is total expenditures. It's at 38.36% so far for the year. The items highlighted in green reflect the items 5% over budget, and those are explained on page 5. Page 3 is a chart that compares year-to-date revenues and expenditures to the budget. The budget is in green. Then 4 and 5 are the explanations, and page 5 are checks that have been were written in the month of April, over $100,000. Any questions?
Gentlemen, any questions? Then we will move along to item number 15, recommendation of bid items. Ms. Jones-Shivers.
Per Louisiana Revised Statute 43-141A, the police, juries, city and parish councils, municipal corporations, and school boards in all the parishes, the parish of Orleans excepted, at their first meeting in June of each year, shall select a newspaper as official journal for their respective parishes, towns, or cities for a term of 1 year. On May 29, 2012, the Purchasing Department received 1 bid for the right to act as the official journal. The bid was received from the Gonzales Weekly Citizen. After review, the Purchasing Department and Parish Secretary recommend accepting the lowest responsive bid from the Gonzales Weekly Citizen.
Motion, Madam Chairman.
Have a motion from Councilman Lambert, second from Councilman Johnson. Any discussion? Any objections? Motion passes. Item 14,
Motion to
Councilman.
adjourn, Mr.
Thank you. Second, and any objection? Does anybody want to stay the rest of the night?